So, by popular request today, I'll be making my sourdough focaccia. So we start off with 345 grams of water, and 145 grams of sourdough starter. Give those a mix, and I'll just add the salt now while it's easy to mix in. 11 grams of salt. The recipe calls for a mix of white flour and wholemeal flour. It says 380 grams of white flour and 95 grams of wholemeal flour. You can really mix this up however you want. That's the ratio I used when I first made this, and it works out pretty well. So I'll start off with 380 grams of white flour. Just because I'm running a bit low on my normal bread flour, I'm gonna just use some of this instead. It's just oat and bran bread flour. And then 95 grams of wholemeal flour. And then we also want 13 grams of olive oil. And 15 grams of honey. Okay, mix all of this together. It will be quite a liquid sort of dough, fairly gluggy, but this is one of the reasons why this is so easy to make, because you don't really have to worry so much about kneading it. Okay, give that a good stir. And then once that's all combined, you can just do a couple of sort of fold and stretch. So you can see that when I'm doing this with the dough scraper, I'm sort of coming underneath and then pulling the dough over the top. You can also do this with your hands. It's just I find the dough quite sticky at this stage. And then once you've done that a couple of times, just scrape down all the sides of the bowl and leave it to sit for half an hour. I've actually left this for a little bit longer than half an hour, but that is one of the joys of this recipe. It is pretty flexible. So we're going to do the same thing again, sort of I guess a bit of a modified stretch and fold using the dough scraper instead of my hands. And just go around a few times. And once you're done, you cover it up and leave it again. You can really leave it for as long or as little as you want, and do this in total about 3 or 4 times. Okay, so I've actually let the dough proof overnight in the fridge. And as you can see, it has risen a bit. So last time I made this, I used a rectangular baking tray. This time I actually want to make the focaccia in a skillet, so I will use that instead. So you just Pour in a healthy amount of oil just to line the pan, whether you're using a roasting dish or something else. And then all you do is simply transfer the dough into your pan of choice. And then once it's in there, just sort of gently shape it to go all the way to the edges. And you do just want to be gentle in this stage because air bubbles will have started to form while it was proofing. And you can actually see some just gently forming. And then we're going to leave this to rise for a couple of hours. It has now been a couple of hours, and as you can see, the bread has risen. And so now what we want to do is add whatever toppings you want. So you can go crazy here, olive, sun-dried tomato. I'm gonna just do a fairly simple one, just a drizzle of olive oil. And you can also just make dimples in the bread, and that will make the oil pool in those places and capture some of the flavor. I'm also going to add a sprinkling of rock salt, some rosemary from my garden, and some black pepper. Okay, and this time to cook it, I noticed last time when I made this, it did get a little bit burnt before it was fully cooked. So this time I'm actually going to cook it, start off with the lid on and see how that goes. So preheat your oven to 230 degrees. If you are cooking in a regular baking tray, if you do have a pizza stone or a heavier tray, put that in the oven before you turn it on and allow that to heat up as well. This cast iron pan is pretty heavy, so I'm just going to use it on its own. So note, I've put the dough on the lowest shelf possible in my oven, and after 10 minutes I took the lid off. The recipe says to cook it for 15 minutes and then rotate. So it's got a couple of minutes left, and then I will just rotate it around so it cooks evenly. After 15 minutes, turn the baking dish around and put it on for another 10 to 15 minutes.